Hello, my name is Ash, a counselor in training. This is my Relatable study podcast for individuals who need help studying for their NCE, CPCE, and other related counseling exams. I'm going to go through many questions from multiple resources and make the answers relatable to both you and me. So get your listening ears on and let's get studying. To help your client achieve his goals, you teach him some social skills using cueing and coaching. Which principle of operant conditioning does this method employ? A. Environmental restructuring. B. Behavioral practice. C. Discriminative stimuli. Or D. Social remodeling. It is C. Discriminative stimuli. Or shorthand, SD will signal a behavior that is specific that will be reinforced. For example, using a traffic light. When the colors change, you will red, stop, yellow, slow, and green, go. That prompts you on your driving skills. Another example would be a doorbell. It is signaling somebody's arrival and it prompts you to answer the door. These two examples are a specific discriminative stimuli. Example, what is cluster sampling? Cluster sampling is the process of collecting data from a large population that is broken down into smaller populations known as clusters. For example, take the United States. It is broken down into different states, and in those states, it's broken down even further by counties. And then when you zoom into the counties, there are smaller cities. And in those cities, there are a variety of people. And so when researchers are doing cluster sampling, they will go into those populations in these smaller cities and gather information from each of those small clusters. That is an example of cluster sampling. In which Ericksonian stage does the midlife crisis occur? A. Generativity versus stagnation. B. Integrity versus despair. C. A and B. D. Erickson stages do not address midlife issues. The answer is A, generativity versus stagnation. This usually happens around the ages of 30 to 64 years old, and it contributes to society and being a part of a family. With stagnation, you usually slow down, whereas generativity, you are at a steady pace with your life events and what's going on around you. At this stage, you are either feeling very, very productive, you're connected with your community, whereas stagnation, you are unproductive and disconnected from your community. What is Fetner's Law? Fetner's Law was built on Weber's Law, and Fetner's Law is able to determine the relationships between the magnitude of the stimuli and reaction. Fetner's Law states that because of psychological sensations, that stimuli will change lethargically in relation. For an example, think of the lighting intensity in a room. We're able to perceive lighting changes as we move from room to room. One room may be very, very bright while the other one is dim. Another room will have LEDs in it while another one is completely dark. And we are able to perceive those light differences, and it also relates to emotions or reactions or any nonverbal communication cue. We're able to notice and perceive those differences. Those are an example of Fetner's Law. The teacher of a 16-year-old notes that he has recently lost interest in school and often appears distracted. He finds it difficult to focus in class and says he is not enjoying much of anything anymore. He sleeps and eats poorly and feels fatigued most days. He denies taking any drugs or committing acts of self-harm. Although he admits he has considered both, what is the most likely diagnosis? A. Dysthymia. B. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. C. Major depressive disorder. D. Bipolar disorder. The answer is C. Major depressive disorder. Because this teen has lost interest in many things. He sleeps and eats poorly, is fatigued. He is not taking any drugs or committing self-harm, but he has thoughts about it. This would fall under major depressive order because it pinpoints several things listed in the DSM regarding major depressive order and will need help, whether it's counseling, whether it's talking to a peer, so on and so forth. If he saw a counselor or psychiatrist, he will most likely be diagnosed with major depressive order. And that is all 5 questions. Thank you for listening. Keep calm and study on.